Welcome back to the podcast with your host, Samantha.
And I'm Alexa, and we're here to light up your life.
Today, we have an extraordinary guest. Her name is Liz Lugo Yohe. She's an entrepreneur. She's an SED with Monate, and she is in the $5 million club. Today, we're not talking about all of your success as a business owner. We're actually talking about a very vulnerable topic, and that's your explant and what you went through. So we're really excited to have you on.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for coming on and definitely talking about such a difficult topic. So can you kick us off by just sharing with us how long ago did you get the implants and what made you want to have them in the first place?
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you for having me. I'm so excited. I love being able to collab with like badass women that do really cool things. And this is a topic that I feel like needs to get a lot more light. People need to shed way more light or shine way more light on it, because it's something that happens to so many women and they may not even know it's happening. So a little bit about me. So growing up in college, I was a Hooters calendar girl, Miss March 2012 over here. So of course, when I moved to Miami from like my small hometown and I started working at Hooters as a bartender, and peer pressure is really what got me to get my implants to begin with. I was like a small B cup. And back in like the early 2000s in Miami, like everyone had implants. It was like the anomaly was for someone to not have them. And I remember just like seeing everyone, they look so pretty because they do look very nice. Like implants look very beautiful. And thinking like, okay, I want to get those too. So December of 2008, I got my first set. I got saline because I was too young to get silicone. There was red flag number one. So I got saline implants at just 18 years old. And, you know, I started gaining weight. I started kind of like having a hard time, like remembering things, but it was such like small little changes that to me, it wasn't enough for me to like pinpoint the implants. Plus, back in like 2010, 2009, no one ever thought this would ever be an issue. Like the people that were talking about it were just kind of like, okay, bye, like hushing them, like, you know, this is like hippie stuff, right? That you're discussing. So I just didn't think anything of it. Saline implants after 10 years have to be replaced. So I just thought, okay, like I'm getting older. I'm going to school full time. I'm like working full time. You know, I started going out more and just like living like the Miami fun life in my early 20s. So I just figured like, that's why I'm more tired. That's why I gained the freshman 10 pounds that you get, you gain in college. I didn't even think to ever even correlate the two. So fast forward, 2018 is time for me to change my implant. And again, in these 10 years, my weight fluctuated. I mean, I felt stressed out, but it wasn't like anything again that was crazy enough for me to pinpoint my implants. So I thought it was going to be a simple surgery. My first surgery was like, I was in and out in like 2 hours. I remember I was working at my corporate job and I didn't even tell my boss that I was getting the surgery because I'm like, I had a home office. I'm like, by the time that he probably finishes with like his morning, you know, messages or meetings or whatever, like I'll probably be home and awake and I can talk to him. So I went into surgery like at 8 a.m. I wake up and I remember feeling like a lot of pain, very different from the first time around where I was like, I feel great afterwards. And I asked the nurse, I'm like, what time is it? She's like, it's 2 p.m. And I was like, what? Like, how am I waking up at 2 p.m.? Like, how long was my surgery? This was supposed to be super simple, just like swapping them out. So turns out my left one was deflating and it was like kind of moving towards my armpit. So they had to completely kind of like not reconstruct, but they had to like reshape it. I mean, it was like not an easy surgery. And this time around, I got silicone implants. So the recovery process was really tough compared to the first time I got them. And I just remember thinking like, why am I feeling so weird? Like, why is it hurting so much? But I just figured, okay, it's because, you know, that one was moving, whatever. This was December of 2018. by like February, March, my left breast was like a tennis ball. It was like super round, really hard, like right up here. Like it had completely moved up. My right one had settled fine, but my left one was in so much pain that I couldn't even like move my arm. And I went back to the surgeon and he's like, well, it looks like you have, again, my left one, which the left one had given me issues the first time around. He's like, it looks like it got capsulated. So it became a capsule, like your body's rejecting this implant. We have to replace it. I go in to do another surgery just
that.
I'm sorry. So in March, like he did it, like all we had to, like literally we just waited until he switched, like he ordered the implant. So December I had the surgery. March is when I went complaining. Probably like 2 weeks later, that's when he changed it. He only did my left one that time. And again, it was like whatever, I was fine. This was March of 2019. November of 2019, I had a car accident where the airbag deployed. They were fine. I got them checked out afterwards. Like they were like, nothing happened. You're fine. But then as we went into 2020, like a year later, I started feeling really weird. I started feeling like panic attacks, a lot of social anxiety. I'm not like a shy person. I will talk to anyone. And I started feeling like right now, like talking to you girls, I would get like, oh, this like social anxiety and just be like, okay, I gotta go. And it was really like starting to interfere with my life and my business because what I do is I do trainings, I do events, I would start feeling just so bad. I was also really like inflamed, like I was really swollen everywhere. And I just knew something wasn't right. Obviously, the pandemic happens. We are all at home. I guess that like caused me even more stress. And I started breaking out. But I'm talking about like not just a pimple here and there. I'm talking about like I would touch my face and it was like so much under the skin acne. It was so bad. And Miami opened up relatively quickly. So, things opened up. I would go get facials. There was one point where I was getting a facial like every week. And she would tell me, she's like, I don't know why this is still happening. It was, excuse me, it was terrible. And at the same time, while my acne was just like all over the place, I started having even more panic attacks. I started forgetting things. It was like just constant brain fog. I got to the point where my sister was my assistant at the time. She had to drive me places because I was scared to even drive. It was really like interfering with my life. Like I would host training calls for my team and I would start crying afterwards. Like Zoom was over and like the show was over and I would just like start bawling my eyes out. And I'm like, okay, something is off. Like this is not me. I need to do something. My friend, I knew a couple friends that had removed them, but to be honest, like still going through all of that, I did not even think to say, oh, it's my implants. So then a really good friend of mine tells me like, look, I started going to see this doctor. He's a DO, which that's the acronym, basically is like a doctor that specializes in just like your whole body, not just one specific illness. And like, they tend to go the more natural route. So I found my doctor, still my doctor to this day. I went to see him like December of 2020. Yeah. I walked in and the first thing he said was, that's your problem right there. You need to get those removed without ever like seeing any of anything. I hadn't done blood work. I hadn't done anything. So he tells me, he's like, look, he's like, we're going to go through a process, but you need to start looking at doctors to explant you. This is not a very popular topic. So many plastic surgeons and doctors still say that there's no correlation between autoimmune disease, about weight changes, people who have trouble with fertility. Like there's still so many people who are, doctors who don't give these warnings to the women that are putting in these implants. And, I think that is horrible because there have been thousands and thousands and thousands of cases where women have removed their implants and miraculously, oh, these things have gone away. I'm no doctor, of course. I'm not offering medical advice, by the way. But I'm just saying that like from my experience, I have received so many messages of women that were going through all types of different issues. And once they removed their implants, they went away. So I went to see two doctors. The first one, because they were the two that specialized in like explanting. A lot of doctors won't even remove that, right? And it has to like, they have to not just remove the implant, they have to remove the capsule too. So if you are thinking of explanting, make sure the surgeon also removes the actual capsule. So I started looking for doctors, and my regular primary care physician tells me that I need to go on a detox. So this detox was insane. The reason why I had to go on the detox is because this was no longer just like, oh, I feel bad. Now I had like blood work to prove that something was really off. My estrogen.
Yeah, I was just going to ask what was really off in your blood work.
Yeah. So my estrogen was like 4 times what a woman my age should be. And if you have a hormonal imbalance with your estrogen, any hormone, but like with estrogen, like you're just all over the place. Hormones play such a huge role in how you feel, how you interact with others. I mean, like hormones are everything. And my estrogen was just literally all over the place. But I guess the craziest one was my mercury. So I had no idea about something called heavy metal toxicity. And we all have heavy metals in our body. It's passed down genetically, like through our parents, and some of us will have different levels depending on the exposure that we have, depending on like the exposure our parents had. And heavy metals in your body can cause you to feel all types of things. I'm talking about like, there's been studies of kids that were like, oh, about to be diagnosed with like ADD or whatever, just turned out that they had high heavy metals. Like heavy metals can make you like seriously feel like you're depressed. I mean, go Google the effects of heavy metals in the body, like high heavy metals. It's really bad. So my mercury, a healthy mercury should be between 1 and 10. Mine was a 26. Okay. So almost 3 times what it should be. So he was like, okay, he's like, do you like eat fish? I'm like, yeah, I eat fish, because obviously you can get heavy metal toxicity from like tuna, and like the older the fish, the higher the chance to get heavy metal toxicity. But I wasn't eating enough fish for it to be 3 times the normal healthy amount. So he tells me, he's like, while you're looking for doctors, he's like, you need to go on a detox. That detox sucked. Like all I ate was like chicken broth and boiled chicken. That's it. It was so bad. I cut out sugar. I cut out gluten, soy, dairy. I mean, like absolutely everything. And he told me, he's like, your body is going to hate me the first 2 weeks. It's going to thank me later. So for 6 weeks, I did a super strict diet where, again, I just basically ate like nothing, chicken broth and boiled chicken. And I remember I started feeling better. He also gave me natural supplements for my estrogen, and I did start feeling better. It's crazy. The first 2 weeks, I did hate him. My acne got way worse. I remember I got my period twice in that month because I guess I was just like detoxing from absolutely everything. I did do like Epsom salt baths. They used to make me feel so much better. So anyway, so I'm doing this crazy detox. The 6 weeks go by. We redo my blood work. I had only gone down to a 15 in my mercury levels. My estrogen was fine, but my my heavy metals were still, or my mercury was still at a 15. So I had already found my doctor, which was in itself quite the process, because at this point I was desperate. I was like, if I wouldn't have removed my implants, I would probably be on like antidepressants right now. It was so bad. So the first guy I went to, it just felt like a butcher shop. I like walked in there and he's like, okay, we're going to remove them. We're going to do this. Okay. And by the way, I don't have availability for 2 years. I was like, what? I was like, I cannot go like 6 more months of this. Like, I need to do my surgery ASAP. So second doctor I went to go see, because again, these two were like the only ones that were doing explants 2 years ago near me. So the second doctor I go see, I immediately walked into his office. His doggy was there. I love dogs. So I was like, okay, this is good. Dr. Lampert, I love him. I sat with him for like probably an hour and a half. He heard me out. He like literally answered all my questions. He even showed me like patients of his that had done explants before and kind of looked, had kind of like my body type. And he's like, there's no way we can guarantee what yours will look like, but this is more or less what this person looks like. And I felt so much better leaving there. So he recommended that I do obviously the explant, remove the capsule. But then because I had 3 sets of breasts, and I'm very tiny, I'm only 5'2", like 120 pounds. And I had like double D's. My breasts were like I had no breast tissue. It was like my skin was like paper thin. So he's like, you're not going to be happy with the results. I recommend, he's like, we do the explant, we do a lift. And then he talked to me about a very cool new procedure called fat grafting. So fat grafting is when they take the fat from other parts of your body and they put it there. It's very safe. The only place where it's not so safe is in your butt. So girls, if you're gonna get a BBL, make sure you're going to a good doctor, because there's a vein back there that goes straight to your heart. And that's why people sometimes pass away when they're getting BBLs. Side note. But it is safe to put your own fat in your body. So the issue was that I didn't have enough fat. So now he tells me, he's like, okay, you've been on this super strict diet for 6 weeks. He's like, we're going to switch it up, because my surgery was about 2 months. 2 months out, I explanted on March 16th, 2021. I'll never forget. So he said, well, you have to gain at least 10 pounds in order for me to even have fat. So everything I did in my first 6 weeks, completely opposite, right? I ate French fries, I ate Oreos, I had milkshakes. I did everything I could to try and gain, fat for like, these upcoming weeks. And I remember I was like, man, like I'm so scared because I've been so like healthy. I felt so good, by the way, like eating healthy, cutting out gluten, soy, dairy, seed oils. Like I was feeling amazing, like sad but excited because I was removing my implants, but I was starting to feel so good. And I did notice like changes within myself, and even from like sleep, like obviously I cut out alcohol, I cut out sugar, like I felt great. And I was so scared because I'm like, oh, my mercury levels are going to go up again, but whatever. I needed the fat. So I'm like, for the sake of it, I'm going to eat everything I find. Come surgery day, oh my gosh, he was like marking me up. I passed out, borderline almost passed out, because I was so nervous. Like for so many reasons, my implants had been a part of me for so long. I got them when I was 18. I removed them at 31. So imagine like 31. Yeah. 2021 at 31. So I had them for 13 years. So my whole identity as an adult was built around my huge boobies, right? I was a Hooters calendar girl. It's still my husband's favorite cup. He drinks out of a cup that has my Hooters calendar picture, and like, just again, growing up, like my adult years, I had implants for longer. I got almost longer at the same time that I didn't, right? So I felt really scared because there's no way to predict if you're even going to have sensitivity, what they're going to look like. There's just so many factors that go into it. And I was so nervous. And it's crazy because a lot of women write me on social media and they tell me that they have symptoms, but they're so scared of what the breast may look like. And I get it. It's very scary because I was used to perky, pretty, big, all this good stuff. And I was like, well, that cannot be the case. Scarring is obviously an issue. I scar very well, thank God, but you can still see my scars. And there are people who don't scar well. They're so concerned, with that. But I always tell them, like, whoever is going to see them will know you had the surgery. So rock the scars proudly. Like, I don't think I ever even, obviously I met my husband after I removed them, and that was never even a thing for me. I'm like proud of my scars because they mean that I survived something so crazy, right? That made me so much stronger. But almost passed out in the surgery. It was an 11-hour surgery. It's crazy. Literally again, started at 8 a.m., didn't leave there until like 12 or 8 p.m. I'm sorry. So 11 hours under. And the recovery sucked, like sucked. I had drains. The drains weren't so bad. I feel like they look way scarier than they actually are, but the recovery was really tough. The painkillers, I don't like taking painkillers. I had to take them. I felt like I was like hallucinating, and I felt like I was like seeing stuff in my room. I would Google like, can anesthesia make me crazy? And I was just like, it was really tough. So if you are considering an explant, and then again, I also did the lift. I also did the fat grafting. They had to literally flip me like 360. They got some from, sorry, that's my husky. She's next to me, but they got some from my legs. They got some from my stomach. They got some from like literally everywhere, because, you know, the more the merrier. I think they ended up doing like 200, is it cc's? I don't know what the measuring thing is, but 200 of whatever they use in each breast of fat. So I couldn't work out for like 12 weeks, but once I started feeling better, I went back to do my blood work again, because I had to go back to see my primary care physician. So remember, super strict diet, you know, really being careful. My mercury level was at a 15. Following weeks, ate whatever I wanted, did whatever I wanted, basically had to gain all this weight. My mercury level went down to 5 when I removed the implants. It's so crazy, because I mean, there's no test that can tell you that you have breast implant illness, but at least for me, how I felt and my blood work showed that removing the toxic bags out of my body fixed everything. I remember I had eczema on my hand, like right here. The next day, it was gone. The next day after my surgery, my crazy acne, probably within a month. I mean, all I have right now on is concealer. We did fix it up a little bit, you know, with the Zoom stuff, but like my skin is very, very, very clear. I don't have any scarring, nothing. The acne just started going away on its own. The body inflammation that I had, if I show you a picture of me then versus now, you're like, that looks like your older sister. It doesn't even look like me. Like, my face is all swollen. Like, I'm just so swollen. I just had inflammation all over, and all of that, you know, went away. I also, and this one's, sometimes people like laugh when I tell them this, but I feel like I got my soul back. I got to the point where when I had my implants, like, I couldn't cry. Like, when I, you know, reached all these goals and all these things in my business, like, I was excited, but I couldn't cry. Things would happen to me, and it's not that I wouldn't feel them. I was just very like robotic about it. You know, sometimes when you close your eyes and you see like a bunch of little stars and stuff, I don't know if that happens to you. That stopped happening to me when I got my implants. And I remember the first time I closed my eyes and I was like, whoa, the stars are back. And now I feel things so much more, like memories, smells, like feelings. Like, I am so glad I removed them, because again, I would probably be like on antidepressants right now if I wouldn't have. Because, and everything went away. The anxiety, the panic attacks, the acne, the bloating, everything completely gone. So now I've kind of turned into like a little soldier for breast implant illness. Like, I love talking about it. I love, you know, getting the word out there. And there have been so many women who have reached out to me and been like, I removed them and I feel so good. My doctor actually, he's done, I don't even know how many by now. And he even told me, he's like, out of all the surgeries I've done, he's like, I can't guarantee that a patient is going to feel better, because again, there isn't a test to prove that you have it, right? He's like, but out of all the hundreds of women that he's done, he's like, there has only been one that has told me she did not feel a difference after. So there's a Facebook group that I don't even know who founded it. It's called Breast Implant Illness by Nicole. You can probably like research it and, you know, request to be added. That's what really helped me also make my decision. because there's like thousands of women who share their testimony, they share pictures. I spent so much time just reading like the comments and just being like, yep, I have that. Yep, I have that. It was like everyone kind of had similar symptoms, some way more than others. And I feel like I was very lucky because it could have gotten way worse, you know? But yeah, that's my story. And I'm just grateful that you guys even gave me time to share it on the platform, because again, more light needs to be like shined on this.
Yeah, that's an incredible story. And I think to your point before, how you went in when you're 18 and the doctors don't even tell you that there could potentially be side effects. And I was actually just listening to the Medical Medium podcast yesterday, all about breast plant illness. And he talks about how, you know, if you either get silicone or if you get the saline, your body is heated up and it like discretes these neurotoxins, and to your point, then your body becomes inflamed, and then there's all of these autoimmune diseases, there's brain fog it can cause, and it's different for everyone. But on the podcast he was saying there's things you can do like B12, zinc, doing ashwagandha, getting rid of gluten, getting rid of dairy. So there are things you can do, but I think your story is amazing that you're really highlighting this and helping women make that decision for themselves. So
I love Medical Medium. So I actually still use to this day, his heavy metal detox smoothie recipe. Have you tried it?
yeah, all the time.
It is so yummy. Like at first I'm like, oh, this probably tastes horrible. I love it. It tastes so good and it works really well. Yeah, I love him. I mean, anything that he says, I'm like, love, 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 love. And he definitely agrees with the whole topic of the implants. I want to say probably about like a year and a half ago, because I still like communicate with my surgeon. I still talk to him. I still kind of like, you know, because I still recommend like everyone to him. I don't get paid to do so. Okay. I literally recommend people to him because best like bedside manners, amazing staff, super knowledgeable. And like, again, I love my results. You know, and I was talking to him and he mentioned, because his technique for the whole process has been featured in like a bunch of journals and things. And he was saying how now the FDA is making the implant companies put a warning label on the actual implant box. But I mean, who sees the implant box? I don't see the implant box. I didn't even see my actual implants. You know, like I didn't even see them until I took them out. I actually still have them. You know what? Hold on. I'm going to show you guys because I kept them. Hold on. My husband was like, this is so weird. Why do you have this? But this is my actual implant. Look at how big this was. Okay, this is the one. I mean, obviously they cleaned them and everything. I didn't get to see this until I removed it. So even by putting it on the box, it's like, okay, you're putting the warning label, but is the person even seeing it? And I think that my surgeon, if I recall correctly, said that now they are also recommending that the patient gets like MRIs to make sure it's not ruptured, to make sure that it's like fine, you know. Who is getting MRIs? Like no one is out here getting MRIs to check their boobies, you know? And I think culturally there has been so much pressure on women to like look a certain way. And you know, especially depending on where you live, like Miami, like everyone in Miami has implants and you feel weird if you don't. And you know, I just want to encourage all the women on here and like remind you guys that like you're beautiful just the way you are. Implants don't define you, okay? Or your breasts, the size of your breasts don't define you. But I'm also not oblivious to the fact that we all want to do things to look better and feel better. I love my lip filler and I love my Botox. So like, who am I to say, you know, not to do things? There are other alternatives aside from getting implants. You can do a lift, you can do the fat transfer. There are so many alternatives now, because I do have women that write me and they tell me like, well, I had a baby and they're kind of saggy now and they're, you know, not as perky as they used to be. Like you can do a lift, you can do fat grafting. And actually now getting into the topic of Botox and filler, because people have asked me like, well, you know, you're kind of a hypocrite because you do lip filler and then you removed your implants. that's dissolved by the body. You dissolve the filler, you dissolve the Botox. It's completely different than this toxic bag, which is literally like living inside of you. And for someone like me, who I had twice issues with my left breast, and the fact that both times one was deflating, the other one was capsulated, like I should have known better, because my body was rejecting it. My body was like, we don't want this. And we need to learn to listen to our bodies. Like, my assistant's always telling me how I'm so weird and I'm so in tune with my body. I taught myself to be that way. I can tell when I'm getting sick. I can tell when something's off. And it's because, again, like, I got my soul back after I removed them. And, I just want to remind you, like, learn to listen to your body. If you've had multiple capsulations with implants, you probably shouldn't be getting implants. Okay. If you feel like the only reason you have implants is to please your significant other, to please others, and, you're just like, you feel bad. Because I've had other women that tell me, well, my husband doesn't want me to remove them. Like, okay, if you feel bad, you know what? Like, get a new husband, because he obviously does not care about you. Okay, that's a little too out there. But you know what I mean? Like, do not live with just like pain or feeling bad because you're scared of what others might say, or because you want to fit in. I can tell you now, being part of the Little Booby Club, that they're a vibe. Okay, they're such a vibe. Everyone tells me that I look 10 years younger. I feel 10 years younger. I can finally work out my upper body. Like, when I had implants, I wasn't able to. Any crazy move that I would make, it would hurt me. There was capsulations. I couldn't do this. It would sound like squishy sounds, and now I feel so good, and it feels so good to be like healthy and know that I don't have toxic bags, inside of me. With that said, I feel like not everyone runs the risk of having BII, but why do you want to risk it? Why? Like, people tell me like, oh, I'm thinking about doing them. I'm like, why? Don't. If there's a risk that you can go through what I went through, like, why risk it? Or what others have gone through. Like, I didn't even get to the point of having an autoimmune disease. I was very blessed and lucky. Other women have, women that have had fertility issues for years, women who have been depressed, who have taken antidepressants, who have, had to spend all this time and money, and all kinds of different alternative methods to feel better, when in reality, the problem is right here. So it's a very taboo topic still, and it shouldn't be, because again, you're beautiful just the way you are. You don't need them, but if you do want them, research other like options. And I don't know if maybe later in editing you guys can like add pictures, but I can send you pictures of my face and how bad the acne was. And like, I have a whole highlight reel on it in my Instagram page, but the eczema, like just the inflammation in my body. And you guys could see, like, actually see how bad it was affecting me.
Yeah, and just the fact that you had all these symptoms and you were able to make the connection, right? You were so fortunate to find a doctor that was able to test you for heavy metal toxicity, because that doesn't happen. I have my current provider has never asked me or has never checked for those things. So it's really important, and it's huge that you're talking about it. And I would definitely agree that it's not talked about enough, but these are all things that you need to go to your doctor and vouch for yourself and really advocate for yourself and say, I need to do these things. If you have currently implants, it's important that you talk to your doctor about it. If you have any symptoms, that you're aware that there could be a connection, and vouch for yourself and say, hey, I need this test. Be your own advocate with your own and take charge of your own health.
Amen. I have a friend, Jessica. She was the first person that I ever knew to remove her implants. And I remember, and I've been friends with her for like ever. And I remember when she first removed them and she would tell a story, I'd be like, okay, sure. Anyways. But her story is way crazier than mine, because she was like really, really sick, like could not get out of bed sick. She went to every doctor, cardiologist, regular doctor. I mean, she got gynecologist. She got all these tests done. To your point, they were not testing the right stuff. So her blood work was coming back just fine. And they kept telling her, like, you're fine. Your cholesterol's fine. you know, your hemoglobin is fine, like you're fine. And she was like, I know I'm not, I know I'm not. And she actually was Dr. Lampert, my surgeon's first explant many, many years ago. And that's how I actually found him. But yeah, a lot of doctors don't test for heavy metals. A lot of doctors don't test for, you know, hormonal imbalances. That's why, you know, there could be MDs that do so, but I prefer going to a DO. DO is like, again, their acronym, or like their title, whatever, because they do tend to have a way more natural approach to medicine. And instead of just fixing like one specific issue, they're going to focus on the whole body and like see how they can fix everything going on that might be affecting like that one issue. So for me, I went to him because I had acne and panic attacks. But he was like, okay, the acne and the panic attacks, they all tie back to these. So once we remove these, everything else going on in your body is going to go away, right? So I would say, you know, either ask your doctor right now to test you for hormones, for heavy metals, for all these things, or go like try to find a DO who will most likely already do this. So taking care and, you know, taking action when it comes to your health should be your priority. Okay. Again, the things that kind of stop most women is, you know, like, how are they going to look? I'm scared of how it's going to look, and the scarring and this. And again, yes, there is scarring, but to me, the scars could be 10 times bigger, 10 times darker, 10 times more noticeable, and I would still do it because it saved my life. Me being able to have the courage to say, like, I don't care what they're going to look like. I care about my health more, and putting my health first literally is what, you know, changed my life, because who knows where I would be, who knows how I would be feeling. It was a very dark time in my life, and I still have a ton of friends who are going through things. Like, I have a friend that's always sick, and I'm like, well, it's your implants. And she's like, yep. I have another friend that literally is like, I always have a cold, I always feel bad, every month there's something new wrong with me. And I'm like, it's your implants. Like, I tell everyone, I'm like, whenever I hear someone isn't feeling well, I'm like, it's your implants. Like, get the bags out, and you're going to see how your life is just going to drastically improve.
So how did you get to the point of having all of this confidence even after you got your explant, and obviously your body changes? So what have you done?
So I got super skinny after. I like to work out. I like to somewhat, you know, have some muscle definition, and I couldn't work out for like 12 weeks. The inflammation kind of, you know, left my body, and I got super skinny, and I was like, okay, now I got to work hard, harder to build my physique, right? Because it's like you work so hard for it, and it takes like 2 weeks to lose it. That's just the nature of what it is. So imagine 12 weeks. But to be honest, I think that I was so determined to just feel better and feel like myself again, that I just was like, I don't care. Like, I'm going to keep pushing through. But once I started feeling better, once I was off like the painkillers, once I was like starting to really settle in my body, I just felt so good. You know, I had no more anxiety. My acne was clearing up. I had no more panic attacks. I just felt so good. I was able to sleep better. When I started working out, I was able to work out more. I started feeling things more. And I think that just, I had no more brain fog. And I think once the brain fog went away, I was like, okay, this is your chance to like step into this new you. You know, I preach this all the time in my business. It's like, you're never going to be, if you're the same person today than you were a year ago, like, you're not growing, right? So I said, okay, now I'm growing. Now I feel so good. Now I feel amazing. Now there's nothing that can stop me. Now I'm going to be literally superhuman. I felt like, you know, because everything was just so, I could like think again, you know, having just that brain fog. It was so tough to concentrate on tasks. It was so tough to concentrate on work. It was very challenging. So I think the confidence came because I just felt so good that I told myself, like, this is your time to shine and step up and become even better.
That's such an incredible story.
Yeah, it really is. That's amazing.
Thank you.
For our listeners, where can they find you?
So you can find me on Instagram at Liz Lugo Official. I have all the other platforms, but to be honest, Instagram is the only one I use. And I do have a whole highlight reel on there on the Explant, like me talking through it, me talking about it. And I have done a couple like news stuff, which you can find the videos there. I've been interviewed by a couple of news outlet about it too. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. People ask me about this. Women ask me about this all the time. And again, I'm not a doctor. I don't want you guys to take, my advice as like medical advice. Obviously, do seek medical advice from experts. But I do have to say that it changed my life. And if it wasn't for my explant, who knows where I would be today. So if I can help you like come to a decision, or I can answer any questions, or I can kind of ease your mind about the process, I love to do so. My DMs are always open, so feel free to reach out.
I think it's incredible. Your story is your superpower, and you're getting this message out there. And I know it's not easy, and you have to be very vulnerable, but so many people are going to appreciate you so much. You're such a positive light, and thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Thank you. And it's not just me. There's like really cool, inspiring people out there, way cooler than me, who are also removing their implants. Pamela Anderson removed her implants. Pamela Anderson, literally Pamela Anderson, who was known for her, her big hooters. Mel Robbins removed her implants. I mean, there's such a long list of women who are, taking that step and sharing their stories. So if you want to learn more, if you want to be inspired, I would say definitely try searching that group on Facebook, Implant or Breast Implant Illness by Nicole. And I don't even know who Nicole is, but shout out to her for creating that group, because once you go in there, you're going to see like thousands and thousands of testimonies that helped me a ton. But also Google like celebrities who have explanted and see, what they're saying about it, because this is now, again, there's a little more awareness, but so much more needs to be put out there. But thank you so much, ladies, for having me on the show and having me share my story. Appreciate it.
Thank you.